On today's show, I am very excited to introduce you to Sarah Hale. She's a seasoned brand strategist and a fan-building expert based in Nashville, Tennessee. Sarah's journey in branding began at a young age when she first created a fan site for the iconic boy band NSync. Fast forward to today, and she's a partner at Luum Studio, which is a brand strategy and design firm known for crafting favorite brands that resonate deeply with their audiences. With over 14 years of experience spanning various different industries such as social justice, music, entertainment, and business consulting, Sarah has perfected her ability to envision the big picture and deliver cohesive strategies. Her portfolio includes collaborations with D2C beauty brands, startups in the tech and sustainability sectors, performing artists, and a nonprofit organization that is focused on combating human trafficking. As a partner at Luum Studio, Sarah provides pivotal guidance to founders of startups and established businesses to elevate their brand experience and expand their business reach. We have an amazing conversation today, and I'm really excited for you to learn more from Sarah about branding, strategy, and designing a better world. Enjoy the show. Sarah, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here, and it's great to see you.
Same, likewise. Yeah, we are new friends, but fast friends. It was so fun to
Mhm.
get to know you during South by Southwest in Austin, learn more about your background, and just sit there and go, how have we never met before? Was my reaction. Like, this
Yes.
is insane. But learning more about your story was just so inspiring, and I love what you're doing at
Oh,
Loom. So I'm excited to dive in and talk about that today.
thank you.
So let's start with this journey to where you are today, because it's unique. Like, as like similar to my experience, like it was music to start. I know you went to Belmont, like is a music industry, until you realize like, oh, there's so much more to life than the music industry. And it's really a very small niche. So now you've built your own company out of that. You're helping groups with brand strategy. But
Mhm.
what was that journey like from literally being on the road to now running your own company?
Yeah. Well, it really started in middle school. So I was homeschooled and had a lot of extra time. And my mom really encouraged like extra activities and things I would be involved in. And one of those things is I actually created a fan site for the boy band NSync because I loved them. I wanted to be friends with them. I wanted to know them professionally. And I figured, okay, the only way that this could actually happen is if I have a fan site. Like I need to be legit in this relationship with them. So my mom was like encouraging of that. It's like, okay, this is a great way for you to learn how to use computers and write and everything. So I created it, allinsync.com. Such a great name. I wish I had kept the domain all these years, but I don't
Especially
have it
now,
anymore.
they're coming
I
back.
know. Oh my gosh. Um, but that grew. So I used that as an opportunity for creativity and connection because I was homeschooled. I wasn't connected to as many people. But then that actually turned into a really interesting opportunity because I would say NSYNC is probably one of the first artists that really understood what it meant to have their fans online and to start figuring out what it meant to start engaging with them. So like they actually visited my site and like documented that. And because of kind of the quirkiness of my site, the management for the band actually invited me to come to VIP events as press. So I did get to meet them on a professional level, even though that was such a foreign idea kind of at the time, to be able to do that. But they were so great at really connecting and inspiring me through that. So kind of how that connects for my career now, that just got me jazzed about being in the music industry and being drawn into that. And I used that to be able to interview other artists and be able to kind of build a platform of that, which led me to learning about Belmont, which I realized was like a school that was basically meant for me because there's a lot of quirky music industry, music loving people there. And then I ended up in artist management because I thought that was going to be the next thing for my career. And I loved it, worked with a band called Paramore and was like their day-to-day manager while in college. And it was great experiencing like the NSYNC kind of like fan site experience that I had. And then now working like on the band side, like being creative and strategic with the band of like, okay, how do we use the fan club, like digital platforms, in order to actually build a wider, more connected fan base? And because we had grown up with the internet, that just felt even more natural for the artist side to be able to connect with fans that way. So that was a fun experience. Transitioned from artist management into nonprofit movement marketing. I worked for an anti-trafficking organization for 6 years as their marketing director, and really saw what was working in the music and building a fan base. Like, how can we find ways to be able to connect with our supporters and donors digitally? And one of the great things that figured out was actually online fundraising. So that was a big component of what I did with the organization, of finding partners to be able to bring in their audience, their listening audience, their community, and finding ways for them to fundraise online for the organization. Then I transitioned from that into actually having my own business, wanted to be able to take a little bit of a break from nonprofit marketing and movement marketing to just see what it's like to interact more on the business owner level with everything. Did that for a few years and then met my business partners, and we formed Luum in 2019 and have been going since then. And Luum, we are a brand strategy and design studio, and we primarily work with startups and also businesses that have been around 3 to 5 years that are really in this transitional state. Like, they're going from being in stealth mode to going to market, or they are going from local to regional to national. Like, they're at this place that it's time for everything to start feeling cohesive and really feel good kind of in their skin for their brand messaging and visuals. And we love to be able to take them on that journey to help them move to that next level.
That's amazing. And I think just looking at your background and the entrepreneurial spirit that comes with homeschooling, whether you like it or not, you had all the tools that putting it together to then be able to run your own thing just
Mm-hmm.
totally makes sense. And it's very cool that you're able to be that engine and put all these experiences together to serve your customers at Loom as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Homeschooling, I don't know if I would ever do that for my kids now, but man, it did set me up to be able to see opportunities and to dive into things and really learn how to teach yourself in a lot of ways that I think I might not have gotten through traditional schooling.
Yeah, the way the programming is set up, it just gives you so much margin in your day and your week. Kind of like I think a lot of people are realizing now with remote work. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wow, if there's not, all these distractions and go out for lunch for 2 hours and PE in the afternoon, like, oh, all of a sudden you have so many hours to do other things and still knock it out of the park with your education.
Yeah.
And so that was my similar experience. It was like, get my school done in the first half hour, of the day was like the hardest topics. And then by noon, everything was done. And then I was off
Yes.
running my own nanny and babysitting business. In the evening, I was playing drums. Like,
Literally the same. Like, I
mhm.
never understood the other kids that would drag on their school throughout the whole day. I was done by noon every single day, and then I had the whole afternoon and evening to like create and imagine and like do other things.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it for the fact that it breeds entrepreneurs, I think, and puts you in that mindset. And I think is why even to this day, like I'm a great contributor in a remote scenario, and I'm able to be productive despite a lot of odds and distractions, because it's like get it done, and then life goes on, and you can do
Yeah.
other things, and you can do bigger things, and you can be more strategic. So I love that about you, and I think that's again how we became such fast friends. It's like, oh, I get it,
We
totally get it.
recognized each other.
100%. So when it comes to Loom today, you're usually talking to a group that probably is in a little bit of chaos or confusion, is what I would assume, if they're unsure of their brand and how they want to communicate to, let's call it a fan club or fan base in this scenario. So I would see the first step as bringing some calm to the confusion and some strategy and planning to their chaos, to be like, this is what you're about and this is how you go to market. So when you are introduced to this scenario, what's the starting point and what does that look like as you walk your customer through something that makes sense to then have them come out on the other side very crisp and clear about who they are and how they serve their customers.
Yeah. So normally, you're right. There's like some level, it's not even confusion, but they just haven't arrived at the right way to communicate or represent themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming to us for that. But they have a good product or they have a good service, like they have like a successful business, but there's so much what we like to compare is like they're inside the wine bottle. Like they're very familiar with everything that's going on inside of it, but they don't understand fully how that represents or how other people experience it from the outside. So we are having that outside perspective. We have to ask a lot of questions. So that's really where we start, is being able to make sure that we have a very good understanding of where they came from, where they're at, and where they actually want to go. And there's a lot of discovery, like in-depth questions that I take our clients through. It's actually 3 hours of a workshop of getting to know them before we touch strategy or anything, because I want to make sure that we have a more comprehensive picture before figuring out, okay, you've been saying these things, but I'm hearing this through line. Is this an actual consistent way of being able to communicate this and being able to figure that out with them? So starting with discovery, and then really the way that we operate, it's like one step, one decision at a time. So we want to have that understanding, kind of that blueprint of who they are and where they want to be. And then we build a foundation on that. So from that, that's where we actually go into more like brand personality, archetype, being able to identify kind of where their opportunity is in the market, but also what really works with who they are, because I don't want them to become something that they're not. So it's bridging that gap. And then being able to build the actual identity and verbal like communication for them. And then from there, once you have kind of that foundation, then the fun part of like actually building the world for them can happen. So figuring out how that applies to their digital assets, their website, their social media, their pitch deck, as well as how that actually impacts their in-person experience. Like we've had clients go through actually redesigning their office or like their service rooms and different things based off of what we've uncovered, because now there's like this consistent thread, this understanding of who they are and what they want that actual experience to be for their clients and their customers, and how we can have that be consistent. And I'd like to remind people that everyone, the brand experience is something that you actually can't control 100%. But what you can do is be intentional with every little opportunity that you have with your customers, your audience, and your clients to hopefully reinforce who you are. Or if you're not being intentional with that, it can potentially become a distraction with it. So that doesn't require, I like to remind people, it doesn't require like a huge budget. It just requires being intentional and thoughtful and thinking through, what does it mean for our customer journey or our customer experience, and how can we meet them where they're at so that they can experience this.
That's awesome. When you had a great perspective too, when we were chatting before around this term, even digital transformation, and how it's very much like a enterprise, boxy, assuming people are still like, 10 versions behind on their iPhone update type conversation. But you're talking to very digitally savvy groups. So it's not just like, how do we use digital to reach these people? It's how do we get more intentional and strategic about using digital? And then it almost flips nowadays. I'm seeing more and more where digital then leads to people wanting tangible, which you were kind of saying with the office space. And like, you think of new albums being released, and everybody's going to consume it on Spotify, obviously, but then they're going to want to go buy a record because they want a piece of something signed by the artist. So as you look at this very digital situation already, and you're not really having to make transformations, you're having to make tweaks. Where do you start on that? Like, where's the most important piece? Consumers and customers first, internal teams first? Like, where's the best place when you already have a very digitally savvy customer and audience to be able to see some impact and get those folks actually communicating in a way that's effective?
Yeah. I would say kind of the best way to start would be figuring out where's the opportunity to kind of streamline and bring efficiency for those connections. So if it is a client that maybe they already have a good digital presence and everything, and they have potentially a good check-in process for their service, but what can we do beyond that to make it as streamlined, as efficient for the customer, so that they're not actually burdened by anything that they have to think ahead of time to be able to do. And that's much more possible now because of digital platforms and being able to think through that. So it's looking for those opportunities for efficiency that actually drive the connection, so that you're not thinking so much about the customer is not thinking so much about the process. They're being guided on this wonderful journey, but that's only made possible because of the digital processes that the businesses have put into place. And I can also speak from like internally with our agency that pre-pandemic, we thought so many things needed to be in person, and we were using even the way that we used file formatting and all these different things were very like isolated, kind of per computer, not as collaborative. And then when we all had to start working remotely and we couldn't be in a room together, we had to start rethinking, okay, what does it mean to have version sharing at this point? How can we collaborate more on a cloud platform versus having individual files? And how can we actually connect with clients and be able to communicate ideas without being with them in person and allowing for them to feel like they're part of that process? So it really like pushed us, like a lot of companies and organizations, to figure out, okay, how can we explore digital to actually make this work and still be able to continue with business. And we learned a lot of things that actually made us more efficient and faster, which had a direct impact on like the quality and the work that we do and the timelines for it. But then it also brought up realizing what things really do need to stay in person, like being able to understand how people and we interact with digital and the opportunity there is for that. And it should be streamlining and making in-person conversations and interactions way more efficient and productive, because we're not having to worry about all these other pieces coming into play.
Now, Sarah, as you've been serving customers through Luum for a while now, I'm curious, maybe a use case or a problem that you had to solve for one of your customers that just lit you up and got you super excited about how you could make a big impact in the world and keep doing what you're doing to really make an influence in your customer base and continue to do the great work you do at Luum.
Yeah. What comes to mind is our client, Good Die Young. So we've been with them for several years, and we've seen the trajectory of their business. It's a hair color company that was founded actually by Haley Williams and her best friend Brian O'Connor, who's a hairstylist. And as you know, like Haley has bright colored hair, changing that all the time, and they wanted to have hair color that was actually healthy for the hair. So they started Good Die Young quite a few years ago, and then we were brought in to rethink the brand design and packaging because they weren't satisfied with where it was headed. So we redesigned that in 2019, their identity system, they're figuring out their overall brand strategy, positioning, where they were headed visually, like starting to create that world and the product packaging for that, understanding what it looks like for them to be in retail spaces, being able to help with actually pitching what those concepts could look like for them. And they have transitioned from being a small like e-com, like celebrity-led brand to now being sold in Ulta. And it was really great, I think, kind of full circle moment this past summer, and went to New York for like the big opening at Ulta, and we had like brand activation there with the founders at the New York Ulta, and just being able to see everything that we had kind of started with the team years ago now in this like tangible space for people to come in and interact with was super fulfilling and super fun to be with them on that journey.
Well, that's a cool story too, because you think of the old way of people trying to get into Ulta, and it was like cold calling and going to the store, dropping off your product, and a little pop up in the entryway, like for samples and things like that. But this shows the power of digital, I'm sure likely Haley's brand, to have this customer base that then you could from the get-go drive this traffic and this audience to Ulta that I'm sure they were thrilled to have introduced to the store and get people in their store again versus not consuming anything actually in a physical retail location.
Yeah, it was great for that. And I mean, people were standing in line for 24 hours to be able to come in to the activation, which honestly was a big surprise for all of us to happen. But being able to, the digital side was important to be able to connect with, yes, like her fan base, but then to even grow beyond that to like anyone can color their hair. Like this is something that people who might not have thought that they could have temporary color and do that, we can now actually connect with them through digital to be able to communicate and provide those share about the products for that. But seeing the company grow from where they were to being really confident about their visuals and their messaging and feeling good like in their skin about who they are, and then showing up in national retailers as that has been super fulfilling for my entire team, and definitely is something that we want to continue to keep doing with the clients that we work with.
Incredible. Now, Sarah, I have just one final question for you, and it's around principles. I'm curious to hear from you. What is the guiding principle that you live by to be successful in business?
I would say it's being straightforward and honest with people about where they're at and where we can actually like serve them. So I do not subscribe to like bringing people on or like working with companies that I don't think were a good fit just for the sake of having that. I want to make sure that we actually have a really good understanding, and I have a good understanding of who they are and whether or not I can actually help them, and being honest about that and being straightforward of whether or not this can be a good fit to be able to work with us and what really will serve them. So finding like I actually really care that the people I'm talking to, the clients that we have, that they're set up for success. Like they're having the opportunities to be their best self or to be able to grow and be their best selves in their company and also personally. So I don't want to ever have anything that isn't straightforward and honest about our connection or being able to share with them about what we can do. But also, I just want to encourage them and where they're headed and everything. So I think honesty is like a huge piece of that, because you can't encourage someone if you're not being honest about who you are and that connection with each other.
Amazing. Sarah, you're such an inspiration. So excited we crossed paths not too long ago and love all that you're doing at Luum. So thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me on. And I'm excited to see you next time you're in town.
Sounds amazing. Talk soon.